Reefer Madness is the absolutely insane anti-drug propaganda film from 1936 that was directed by Louis Gasnier. My producer is handing me something. Oh, I'm sorry, the director was from France. Okay, let me do that again. So Reefer Madness was directed by Louis Gasnier. Is that better? All right, good. Reefer Madness begins with a frightening crawl about all the evils of marijuana. We learn that its first effect is sudden, violent, uncontrollable laughter. I get that effect without mind-altering drugs by just watching old episodes of Mama's Family.
I want the judges to see me in the best possible light.
Well, you better pray somebody blows a fuse.
Oh, no drugs needed when Vicki Lawrence is around. And next will come dangerous hallucinations. Space expands, time slows down, and it almost stands still.
You don't want it.
I think I kind of want it.
And then you get fixed ideas which will conjure up monstrous extravagances. I don't even know what that means, but you definitely have my attention. I will take 1 unit of drugs, please. And that is all followed by emotional disturbances and the total inability to direct thoughts. My brain does that without drugs. So far, I'm not really seeing the issue here. And it then claims that everything in this film is based on actual research into the effects of marijuana. It wasn't. This movie was written and directed by fearmongers who did almost zero actual research into the effects of marijuana, but probably felt that the ends would justify the means, and the people that made this movie hoped that their message would be remembered forever. The film begins with an assembly at a high school to talk about the dangerous new drug that is sweeping the nation. The assembly is headed up by the principal, Dr. Alfred Carroll, who looks exactly like the type of person who would lead a meeting like this. It's quite remarkable. We've all been lectured by this exact same guy about something. Dr. Carroll is reading a letter from someone from the Narcotics Bureau, but it's painfully obvious that he wrote the letter himself.
At the outset of this letter, there is one vital fact I would like to submit. There is a powerful agency. I speak of the school parent associations of this country, which can be invaluable in stamping out this scourge.
Oh man, I bet these parents are just amped up right now. This is the oldest trick in the book. The letter goes on to say that marijuana is grown in every state and is causing an epidemic, and even though this letter is about the scourge of marijuana, it goes into exhaustive details about how easily hidden and transported opium, morphine, and heroin are.
The deadly drug was burned in the incinerator of the Bureau of Engraving and Printing.
And those printers were more up than they have ever been. One such printer, Eugene Lightfoot, freaked out and ate his friend and business partner, Arthur Sanders. He even cut off poor Arthur's face and wore it as his own. And then he jumped off a building and landed on a box full of puppies. But enough about heroin. Let's get back to this evil plant that makes you laugh and is grown from the earth.
You may also believe that the facts have been exaggerated. Let me tell you of something that happened right here in our own city.
And he then proceeds to exaggerate and tells the story of local drug dealers May Coleman and Jack Perry.
Jack, we can get along without dragging those young kids up here.
Oh, why don't you button up your lip? You're always squawking about something. You got more static than the radio.
Man, belittling women was a freaking art form back then. May only wants to sell drugs to adults, and she's weirded out by Jack because he keeps bringing teenagers up to the apartment. And Jack meets up with his associate, the evil college dropout Ralph, and they try to recruit high schooler Mary and her brother Jimmy to go back up to May's apartment. Mary has to go play tennis, but Jimmy excitedly goes along with these two adults. And I can't tell if their lives would be better or worse without marijuana. And so the drug dealers have their mark. Now they just need to carefully word their delivery to trick Jimmy into coming upstairs.
Hey, kids, we're having a little party up at my girlfriend's apartment. Wouldn't you like to come? Oh, I'd love to. You want to come, don't you, Jimmy?
Oh, sure.
Oh, well, that was easy. And back at Mary's house, she's studying with her boyfriend, Bill.
Why, Bill, don't you want to learn something about running your own home?
The answer is no. You know, after that session we had yesterday, I went home and told Mother that the trouble with her pot roast gravy was she hadn't added 3 heaping teaspoonfuls of olive oil.
What did she say?
She didn't say anything. She just threw me out of the kitchen.
Well, I don't wonder.
May I?
Oh, thank you, kind sir. You're so very, very kind.
I don't know. This movie isn't making a very good case to not smoke marijuana. So far, the people who aren't high are the weirdest ones.
Just 20 years till then.
Well, I'll see you tonight, Mary. Goodbye, Mrs. Lang.
Goodbye.
So long. Gosh, oh!
Bill then gets an erection, and because he wasn't mellowed out by the sweet, sweet ganja, his body didn't know how to handle it. We then get a glimpse of Bill's home life.
Hey, Daddy!
Oh, Julie. Well, hey.
And the casting director may have been high as well. Bill is a teenager played by a 25-year-old, his parents are pushing 80, and his younger brother is 12 and is possibly a ghost from the Victorian era.
She'd have to be swell for you to like her.
Uh-huh. Sounds like you want something. Come on, what is it?
Well, it's my model airplane. It won't work. Gosh, Bill, you could fix it. You can fix anything.
Okay, I'll fix it.
And thus begins a subplot about Bill's crippling glue-sniffing addiction. It's not as fleshed out as the marijuana main plot, but they only had an hour to scare old people, so sacrifices to the story had to be made. The next day, Jimmy picks up Bill and they head to Joe's soda shop to meet with Ralph and Blanche, and they invite Bill up to May's place. The party's in full swing, and everyone has such nice things to say about Bill.
Hi, May. This is Bill Harper. He's okay. There's a new one in the bay.
Yeah, Bill Harper. He's all right.
They're completely out of marijuana cigarettes, and Jack recruits Jimmy to drive him to get some more.
Hello, Jack.
Hi, boss.
How's business?
Getting better every day. Those kids sure go for it.
Swell.
Had to run over for a couple more cartons. Ran short today.
All right. Danny, back 10 gross for Jack Perry.
You know, I gotta say, 30s drug dealers seemed pretty cool and sophisticated. Like when I was growing up, drug dealers were 32-year-old white dudes named Trent that lived in a house with the dirtiest carpet you've ever seen, and he always had 2 pit bulls, and he owned like 1,000 DVDs. He was also the most boring person you had ever met. I mean, Jack's wearing a 3-piece suit in the middle of the day. I'd buy drugs off someone like that. Bring back these kinds of drug dealers. They pick up the drugs and take off, but Jimmy is high and drives recklessly at the breakneck speed of, 45 miles per hour. Oh no. What's going to happen next? Jimmy's so high he forgets to use his turn signal or something. Oh my god. So Jimmy just committed a hit and run. Okay. The next day, Mary is upset because Bill doesn't come around anymore, and Jimmy is acting angry and withdrawn. He is looking stressed. Get that boy some marijuana, stat. Dr. Carroll goes to see his contact at the FBI, Special Agent Wyatt, to talk about the growing drug problem. Wyatt says the best course of action is education.
Oh, it's all right to talk about education, Mr. Wyatt. But we educators can't do anything until the public is sufficiently aroused.
Let me show you something.
It's a picture of Popeye shirtless. Would that help to arouse the public? What? Agent Wyatt tells them that in 1930, the records of marijuana use barely filled a folder, and now it fills 3 filing cabinets. I don't know. 3 file cabinets for the whole U.S.? Sounds like you got it pretty well contained. Dr. Carroll calls Bill into his office to see what's been troubling him lately, and he questions him about his drug use, but Bill denies it.
But remember, if you ever want to confide in me, no one will ever be the wiser.
Except the FBI agent I meet with twice a week. Bill then goes right to May's apartment to get straightened out after that uncomfortable conversation with his principal, and Blanche pulls him into one of the bedrooms. And if you thought Bill was awkward when he had an erection while sober, then you've never seen him work through one while he's high as shit.
Come on! Come on!
The police show up at Mary's house investigating the hit and run.
Did you happen to loan your car to a couple of men?
No, I had the car all afternoon myself.
You know, Mary's the hero of this movie, and she hasn't done any drugs, but now she's lying to the police while being stone sober. Like no one who smoked marijuana has lied to the police so far. This movie's message is all over the place. The police tell her that the victim is still alive, and they leave. Mary goes looking for Jimmy and tracks him down to May's apartment, and Ralph immediately gets her to smoke marijuana, and she is like a damn pro. Ralph sees his opportunity and begins to subtly flirt with her.
Mary!
In the next room, Bill wakes up and stumbles out and sees Ralph attacking Mary, and he starts a fight with him. And then Jack comes and attacks him with a gun. Be careful, Bill. You don't want to rip your good pair of slacks. Whatever will the people at the country club think? Oh my god. Okay. This movie goes harder than you think it would. So Jack tells Ralph and Blanche to scram, see? And he puts the gun in Bill's hand and wakes him up and makes him think that he killed Mary. And Jack finds Jimmy and sits him down, not to tell him that his sister's dead, but to tell him that the dude that he ran over died, but that the police don't suspect Jimmy. Okay, so today's kind of a neutral day for Jimmy. Extremely terrible, but also extremely great. So Bill's murder trial begins and they call up Dr. Carroll as a character witness, despite the fact that he doesn't have any actual expertise. And Bill proceeds to get railroaded by this asshole's anti-drug agenda.
At times, disassociation of ideas. In another instance, I happened to attend the recent interscholastic tennis matches. And while Bill Harper had been considered an exceedingly good player, I saw him miss the ball by as much as 3 or 4 feet. This, I understand, could be attributed to the use of marijuana.
Oh, he missed a tennis ball on a completely unrelated day? Well, we better put him to death. I'd be horrified if my high school principal testified at my murder trial. He was often observed imagining arguments and then mouthing the words of all fictitious parties involved. He would always have a stern look on his face because he was really letting the imaginary person have a piece of his mind. He was such a dork. And so the trial is wrapping up, and yeah, that's great and all. But what I'm most interested in is the fact that Reefer Madness shares a universe with freaking Dick Tracy. The Reefer Madness cinematic universe is amazing. The jury begins their deliberations, and they all decide to make an example of Bill, and they unanimously find him guilty and sentence him to death by hanging. And Ralph is starting to crack, and he's saying that they can't let Bill be put to death. And you know what helped him reach this moment of clarity? You guessed it. The smooth flavor of that sweet marijuana. And so Jack gets the okay from his boss to have him killed. Jack shows up and Ralph knows that he's there to kill him. And again, this isn't drug-induced paranoia, but his instincts are actually spot on. The marijuana helped him realize this. But before Jack can go through with it, Ralph beats him to death.
Hurry, hurry! There's a terrible fight going on. Yes, yes. Apartment 32.
What the? Am I high? Who the hell is this lady? The police show up and arrest everybody, and a citywide operation is underway to rid the area of the Reefer gang.
And I'll tell you who killed Mary Lane. It wasn't Bill. It was Jack. Jack Perry. He shot Mary, and then he put the gun in Bill's hand.
And so, alright, Blanche finally did the right thing, and everyone can begin to heal. Oh my god! Holy shit. She wasn't even high as far as I know. So they reverse the guilty verdict, and the judge lectures Bill more for marijuana use than he did for murder.
Although this court is convinced that to declare you guilty would have been a gross miscarriage of justice, we cannot condone your acts. And we can express only the hope that your experiences may not alone keep you, but thousands of others from the vicious pitfalls of marijuana.
And that's why you don't allow religious groups to write movies. Then comes the time for Ralph's trial, and Ralph's lawyer recommends that Ralph be put in an institution for the criminally insane for the rest of his life. And so the only one who didn't learn a lesson was Jimmy. The dude got high as shit, killed somebody, and will never have to spend a day in prison. So if you have any takeaway from this movie, it's that smoking marijuana will get you out of prison.